self-regulatory collapse. What's going on, my high vibration person of God on earth? It's your boy, Dr. Will Rogers, aka Master Teacher 360 or 33. Today, I want to jump in and reveal, explain, kind of lay the foundation for later on tonight. I want to talk about understanding and overcoming ego protection. So, what is self-regulatory collapse? Self-regulatory collapse occurs when an individual just resists change or refuses to accept advice because the ego is being threatened, because we have to protect, the existing reality or the existing belief system. The reason why this message is so important is because tonight we'll be jumping into, again, this is still part of the Illumination or the Illuminatory series, the 180 frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations that we are establishing as we continue to decode God now and download wealth now. This is the neuroscience. This is the psychology. This is the biology behind all frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations. As we talked about yesterday, again, we broke down that you have to rewire the internal dialogue. You have to establish a mental picture of your desire fulfilled, the highest level of whatever it is that you believe, based upon your numbers and your destiny, your Dear Canary report, in order for you to go on a fact-gathering mission to gather evidence to support the mental picture, to validate the internal dialogue. When you do those three steps, then you are acting as if you are living, you're oscillating, you're vibrating in the now. So self-regulatory collapse is when you lose the ability, again, when presented with a solution to being stuck or being in a negative habit pattern, which just simply means that you just refuse to, or you don't know how to shift your consciousness or your identity, because that's the core, that's the foundation of all success on this planet. As we've been talking about, show after show, the solution to all problems on earth is to just shift your identity to a higher identity. Obviously, if it was that simple, everybody would do it. And so the reason why it's that simple is because of, instead of seeking solutions, we are only seeking validation. And so remember, this is below, like everything that I talk about, pretty much, this is below the threshold of your consciousness. And so later on tonight, as we get into this quantum identity shifting that you have to do and how to do it, again, that's the book and audio for that series tonight is $100 because of it's $100 because it's worth about $1,000. Like everything, I'm just simply sharing with you the psychology and the neuroscience behind, living in your desire fulfilled state. One thing that I've noticed is, one thing for us to know it, to have the cosmic, the religious, the spiritual, but when you get into the science, when you get into the inner workings, when you see calls, something shifts when you can see, oh, that's why I do what I do. I don't know about you, but when you expose the wizard behind the curtain, it removes the wizard's power. Right now, the wizard, the ego, the lower self, it has power because we haven't exposed the cause. We haven't really exposed, or you haven't really exposed the why behind ego protection. You're protecting your ego. We are doing the dark side of our giftedness. So you want to keep doing it. You just want to take the spookism out of it. That way, you're not doing it at the expense of yourself. You're doing it now to empower yourself, because now you understand the why. So self-regulatory collapse, again, occurs when a person resists change. Now, why would you resist being wealthy? Why would you resist? See, most of us, we think going along with someone at the expense of our own belief, like we don't want to, we prefer, to collapse instead of create confrontation. So what happens is we just agree with somebody instead of disagreeing or causing a conflict. So the inability to engage in healthy, conflict resolution, we just rather collapse. In other words, somebody, hey man, can you pick me up at 8 o'clock? You know you can't pick them up at 8 o'clock because you got to be somewhere else, but you say yes. And then one of your kids call and say, hey, I need to do this, and you're like, because that's your child. You're like, okay. So your husband call and say, hey, what about dinner? And you say, okay. But then somebody call and say, hey, you got a family member or a friend. They ask you to do something. You say, okay. So you've said okay to three things that happen at the exact same time because you rather confirm instead of conflict. And so instead of us seeking solutions, we seek validation that change is not necessary. Change of our identity. So we'll change everything else instead of changing our identity. Because if you change your identity, that identity, how you self-identify, that belief system, you leave it. Now, that belief system is only empowered by your confirmation of it. So you being nice is empowered every time you be nice. But if you say no, then what happens to that belief that being nice leads to confrontation? The brain seeks for validation. It seeks to validate. It doesn't seek to solve. So right now you're seeking to validate the problem. You're not seeking to solve the problem because you identify with the problem. Your identity is literally tied into the problem. If you solve your money problem, you have to die to the money personality. You have been so long without money, you self-identify unconsciously. I don't know nobody who consciously say, I want to be broke. But your identity is tied into being broke. So if you stop being broke, then you stop having that identity. You experience identity death, psychological death. We will do anything to avoid feeling psychological death. Psychological death is crazy because of the way psychology or the psychology of framing or the psychology of establishing a negative habit pattern that you have operated in for so long that if you change, you have a feeling that something has died. It's just like if a family member dies. It's so powerful that we unknowingly prefer the feeling, because we don't like feeling like something is lost. That feeling like something is wrong. That feeling like we're not being loved and accepted. So we would rather be accepted by family and friends instead of being promoted by God. In other words, the way people perceive you, you want to be liked by other people so bad that we all do it. We again, the inability for us to withdraw from individuals and from experiences and social interactions. So we don't want to lose interest in previously enjoyed activities. We don't want to stop hanging out with former friends and family. So we don't want to show a decreased engagement. Like if you've been going to a certain space and place, you don't want to show a decreased interest. And so we only have a certain amount of time in a day. And so anytime that there is an emotional change, then that seeps in and that leads to what we call depression and anxiety. So a sense of loss. And so to avoid this social and this psychological death, we are willing to agree instead of conflict. And so that is ego protection. Ego protection is the same frequency as self-regulatory collapse. Self-regulatory, you are designed by source to regulate your own self. You are the Kyrios. You are the Lord over your own cells. Every cell in your body listens to you. The entire universe is inside of you, the same way that we are inside of source. So we're like a neuron in the brain of God. The same way you got neurons in your brain. So every neuron in your brain is an individual person. That's why if you look it up, if you look at the dendrites and the neurons, they look like little people. And so you are the God of your body. And so what you say goes. You control the weather based upon whether or not you drink some healthy water that, is declustered, or whether you drink a soda. So you are treating your cells like it's crazy that you are an entire universe inside of your body. The entire galaxy exists inside of you. You are supposed to regulate. But when you collapse, then that simply means that every cell in your body now, they have like an Old Testament God, a God that demands rituals and sacrifices and deaths. So you are an irresponsible creator. You are an evil God because you're doing evil to your own body. You're not regulating. So self-regulatory collapse, it simply occurs whenever you as an individual person don't know the psychology and the neuroscience behind why you refuse to accept advice. If somebody can tell you exactly what to do, but if you accept what I'm telling you to do today, you have to reject what someone else told you to do yesterday. So you can go to another conference, you can read another book, you can do some more research, and you may find some conflicting beliefs. Some people say fluoride is good for you. Some people say fluoride isn't good for you. We've got whole systems set up, that filters out fluoride. Some people say that, something as simple as taking a shower with a washcloth. Some people say you're supposed to take a shower, you ain't supposed to take a shower, you're supposed to take a bath. Some people say, you ain't supposed to take a bath. Some people say that you're supposed to, everybody has, so we get conflicting information. So you're supposed to protect the existing belief system as long as the existing belief system is moving you in a direction of identifying and downloading the highest version of yourself. So the goal is that we're going to be breaking down later on tonight as we really, really go deeper into the Illuminator or Homo Luminous, which is the highest state of the three states that we talked about, which allows you to decode God and download wealth now to get out of dorsal vagal nerve collapse, where you get paid to exist using your own unique competitive advantage that I've given to you in previous shows by tapping into the mind, will, emotion, imagination, and intellect, especially your willpower, which is the color emerald green that we talked about a few days ago, which is the science of willpower. So we've been saying the same thing, which is instead of seeking solutions, we unknowingly seek confirmation bias. So we seek validation that no change is needed, Doc. Everything that is wrong is because of Donald Trump. It's because they didn't give us our 40 acres and a mule. It's because they took us from our homeland in Africa and brought us over here in ships, like Dr. Umar Johnson talks about. Even though if you do your DNA, 90% of us colored folk are indigenous. I can find your ancestors that used to be a Native American, trace it all the way back to, the Seminoles or Cherokee or some other, tribe of Native American or Indian. So we really don't want solutions. We just want validation. That's self-regulatory collapse. So what we are unknowingly doing is I'm telling you to change and quantum jump to a whole new identity where you don't identify as a Native American or a Black American or an African American or Chinese or Japanese or Hispanic. I'm telling you to quantum shift. That's the solution. But immediately you look for validation. We all look to validate because we've been Black or you've been Hispanic, you've been Native American your whole life. And then a short Black man from Texas comes along and tells you that ain't you. Well, you like, the heck it ain't. You reject. The automatic defense mechanism creates a mental shutdown anytime any individual receives any type of a suggestion that goes against the current narrative. We see that in religion. That's why some people will strap a bomb on their chest and blow up buildings if you don't agree with their belief system. So each of us as individual expressions of God on earth, we're going to blame external circumstances rather than take personal responsibility. That is classic dorsal-vagal nerve collapse, which leads to self-regulatory collapse, the inability to regulate the self. Because we've got to blame someone else. So the ego has to be protected at all costs. The ego is just your current belief system. Your current belief system that's manifesting your current reality must be maintained at all costs. Confirmation bias simply means that your reticular activating system, which is crazy. Y'all know that this blows my mind. I keep researching it. I've been researching it for 30 years. And I just get more and more and more information that shows that you can only see who you be. You can never see anything that you do not self-identify as. So if you were to shift how you self-identify, you literally would shift what you verify. Your confirmation bias is drawing favorable information, circumstances, and situations that confirms your existing belief system and ignores any contradictory evidence. So if I come to you with evidence and proof, ego protection activates. You got to protect the ego. You got to protect your religion. You got to protect your sharing. You got to protect. You willing to fight. You willing to kill. Because the self-regulatory collapse happens when you choose ego protection over divine elevation. The ego strives to maintain stability of the existing belief system based upon a sense of self. It seeks to avoid discomfort or any cognitive dissonance. So it's going to reject. If your energy that you would raise is in poverty, health or opportunities, success is coming. It's everywhere. But the ego fears change. Your ego, your current self, is threatened by people like me who brings solutions. Your sense of self senses when this familiar pattern of disease, the familiar pattern of not having more money than bills, the familiar pattern of caring for other people more than you care for yourself, the familiar is familiar. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just frequently repeated. So the reticular activation, hey, I'm used to feel overwhelmed, stressed out, not robbing Peter to pay Paul, not having enough time. And so you bringing me a solution that solves all of that, but it doesn't match my current pattern. It's not familiar. So my belief system kicks in and my ability to regulate is destroyed. So self-regulatory collapse happens whenever your belief system is challenged. Any challenging of your core beliefs leads to self-regulatory collapse. But you got to recognize that when a person shuts down, when you shut down, it's not because of you don't want to succeed. It's because you have an unconscious defense mechanism that is against any advice that threatens your emotional safety and your emotional familiarity. So cognitive bias is just the mind's filtering of information to protect its current views and to dismiss any information that challenges, no matter how positive. It's just not familiar. So I don't feel safe because it's not familiar. Yeah, but it's right. I don't care though. This is the way, hey, you're guaranteed to be wealthy. Yeah, but I'm not familiar with being wealthy. You're guaranteed to never be sick again. But I've never not been sick. I don't know what that feels like, man. So I don't want to be healthy. Now you don't say that out loud, but the unconscious brain is saying that let's stop regulatory. We're going to collapse. Dorsal vagal nerve collapse. So you shut down because somebody's offering you advice. And eventually you're going to disconnect. You're going to find somebody else. That the Bible talks about itching ears. You're going to find somebody else that says something that's more in line with your current design. I do not want to shift identity down. But you, on the outside, your frontal lobe knows you got to shift identity. Because if the current identity that you have was the current identity that you needed or need or are, everything that you want, everything that you believe, because remember, if you have a desire for something, that simply means that you have the ability to receive something. God's source, the brain cannot have a desire of something that it doesn't already have. So I don't have a desire for something that I don't even know exists. Like, I have no desire to go to what some people call the other lands. There's this narrative out that says the earth is inside of a dome or the firmament. And the waters is we some people have from the waters above and the waters below. So anytime somebody cracks the firmament, like it says in the Bible, there's waters above us. That causes a flood. So the dominant culture supposedly controls that plug. Now, whether you believe that or not, that's for another time. But I have no desire. I don't know nothing about Atlantis. Does it exist? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. The other lands, they say you go past the ice wall. There's all types. There's maps that are showing up all over TikTok now of the earth is just one of a domed flat plane of a plethora. I don't know nothing about those other planes. Now, some people say that, if we access our prior memories, we have access to that. So, okay, when I get to that level of awareness, where I understand how to access my prior lives and prior existence and all of that stuff, if it does indeed exist, okay, I start talking about it. I'll have a desire to go see those other lands. Right now, my brain doesn't bring me that desire. So your brain brings you what you already have. You cannot have a thought that does not already exist. The fact that you can think it means that you have it. If you got a desire to play the piano, that means you got the ability to play the piano. If you got the desire to be a millionaire, that means you got the ability to be a millionaire. You got the desire to lose weight, that means you got the ability. You never have a desire for something that you do not already have. And so you have to shift, again, the way by which the self-regulatory collapse happens. It happens because we dismiss solutions without consideration. It's like I posted a video about the weather steering. It's called Project Cumulus. I've already had a bunch of negative comments. Doesn't exist, make believe, conspiracy theory. They didn't even research. I got a whole CIA government document that was from 1950 on Project Cumulus. It's just like HARP technology. It's like weather control. It's like what's coming out with what just happened here in Texas. That city, that flood happened, that's a sundown city. All black people who live in Texas know you don't go to Kerrville or Kerr County. That place that all them little kids there, that place has been in existence. They said there was 700 girls there. It's been that camp has been there for close to 100 years. And all of the elite been sending their girls there. All white. It's been all white. Every Negro in Texas that's in this area, because it's like 30 minutes from my house. I drive through Kerrville and Fredericksburg and Braunfels. Look at those names. Those are all German names. You go up there, what do you see? Those are all German ancestors. So you don't got to have two. I mean, if you're from Texas, you already know it's just like Pasadena. You don't take your black ass down there at night. It's a sundown. Even though it ain't no signs nowhere. But Negro, let them catch you riding through that. Same thing like the little town called Brayton in Texas. There are certain cities in Texas you don't get it. If you dark skinned, bro, you wanna find a hotel outside of the city. So nobody has to that's all known. But if you're not aware of it, then you could end up violating it. You could be from New York. You're just driving through Texas. You have no idea that you might not want to get a hotel in Kerrville, Pasadena, or certain cities. So my job is to do what? Provide solutions. Your job is to at least consider the solution. Even the Bible says if you do not have consideration, which is objectivity, which is aletheia, which is truth, God himself will send you a strong delusion. So people who suffer from self-regulatory collapse is because they're violating scripture, because they obviously didn't read 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, 9, and 10. I've never heard a preacher, I've been on this planet for over 60 years, I've never heard a preacher break down the definition of the word truth based upon the true etymology of the word. They talk about morality, they don't talk about neuroscience and biology. It's consideration. Your nerves, your whole body, your immune system, you sick, you broke, everything happens to you because you don't have consideration, according to the Bible. I mean, it's and you get up the word when you dismiss solutions without consideration, which is what every Christian that I know does. You can present some facts to them. No, bruh, that ain't it, homie. They didn't even look it up. They didn't even research Project Cumulus. We were talking about weather mapping, weather steering, weather control. Man, these fools been seeding clouds over. They got a whole cloud machine. They can make fake clouds. They can make it rain anywhere they want around. They can steer terrain. Now, because if you haven't researched that, if you ever went to, like I did, the website, NOAA, like I've been telling about it, just, at least 30 years now. This is old news. But people dismiss solutions without consideration. People dismiss solutions without consideration. People, what is the cause of all problems on earth? According to the Bible. What causes a strong delusion? According to 2 Thessalonians. Aletheia. Aletheia is the Greek word for the English word truth. People dismiss. We got to beat this horse for just a little bit, Dr. Span. Dr. Span, we got to beat this horse for the Negroes in the back. Not you high vibrational expressions of God on earth. Them other folk. People dismiss solutions without consideration. People seek validation that the problem is not with them, that the problem is in the world. It's them other folks, Doc, not me, my brother, praise them. People want to believe that the problem, whatever problem, the situation, because really there is no problems, there's just an illusion. But this illusion that we all suffer from some level of psychosis. Me too. I ain't the Lone Ranger. I'm in the same boat. All I'm doing is processing my delusion. That's it. I'm just aware that, you know what? Maybe it's not the white man's fault. Maybe it's not the Chinaman's fault. Maybe it's not the green man. Maybe it's not the alien. You know what? Maybe it's not even the devil's fault. The devil might be sipping pina coladas in the beach. He getting blamed for all of this stuff. He probably sitting over there saying, man, I ain't even gonna mess with y'all. Y'all blaming me for stuff I ain't even done. You are rejecting the solution. Source code is giving you the solution. The Bible even says that we have been given, past tense, everything that we need for life and godliness. So where is it? Well, we shut down. Why? Because somebody's offering me advice. And the advice that they offer me goes against my current belief system. Okay, maybe because the current belief system might be a little outdated. Is that a possibility? No, my brother. You've been saying you've been following the same narrative, not you personally, but people you know, for 30 years and ain't nothing changed. So what do we got to do? Well, we got to navigate and we got to overcome the self-regulatory collapse. How do we do that? We shift focus from solution to empathy. See, one of the things I learned a long time ago, instead of giving people solutions, just create an environment for them to find it on their own. Just love people. Just love yourself. See, remember I said when I lose, I win. When I win, I win. What did I do? I'm not trying to change. I made it okay for me to be me. By making it okay, I'm creating an environment where, you know what, I'm not even trying to change. If I'm a bad guy, you know what, I'm just gonna be it. If I'm on way to hell, okay, I'm going to hell with gasoline draws on. I'm good with it. What happens? The brain relaxes. It lets go of the resistance. It stops fighting. Because when people feel attacked, or when people feel that their beliefs are not validated, they shut down. So we have to stop, violating people's beliefs. Me too. Sometimes just providing people, even though it is the truth, people that are interested in the truth, they're just interested in being loved. Because a lot of people, they came from the same place I came from. They were not validated. They were not seen. They were not heard. So what they're really saying is, hey, love me first, then I'll listen to you. So when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you hear them, you just listen. You don't offer no solutions. Remember, I say this all the time with men in relationships. Men, if you're in a relationship with another woman, I don't know about men on men. Homie don't play that. But if you're in a relationship with a female, most of the time the woman does not want a solution. She already knows the solution. She just wants you to listen. So can you listen without judging? Can you listen without offering a solution? Ooh, wee. That's the hardest thing on earth to do, right, man? It's hard because you know the solution, right, man? At least you think you do. Your girl is talking and you're like, babe, hold up. And then what happens when you give her a solution? She goes off. Why you cut me off? And I didn't ask for the solution. I just wanted you to listen and hear me. I'm just, I don't blah, 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 blah. I told you guys about the example that I learned from talking with my wife. She was talking about how frustrated she was on her job, and I was like, just quit. She went off. The solution is, if you don't like your job, quit. But was she looking for a solution? No. She just wanted to be heard. So in order to assist, especially for Negroes like me, you're a life coach, you're a therapist, you got children, you're in a position where you're offering advice. When people come to you and say, man, I got a problem. And the moment that they say, man, hey, I got a problem, what they are unknowingly saying is, could you listen to me without judging me? And could you listen to me without offering a solution? Because I technically already know what to do. I'm just having a problem letting go of my ego and implementing it. So if you can just listen without offering a solution and without making me feel like I'm being judged by you saying, man, shit, you're an idiot. Why'd you do that? They already know they probably made a mistake. That's why they're coming to you for advice. So when you give advice, start by giving an empathetic ear. Listen without judging. Shoot, why you, man, why you get drunk, dog, and, somebody, get a DWI. You gonna beat them up by telling them, man, what was you doing drinking, man, and then you got behind the wheel. What was you thinking? obviously they wasn't thinking. They already know that. And you keep telling them, man, that was a bonehead move. Well, and then you wonder why they don't take your advice? The first thing that you got to do is listen without offering a solution. And please listen without judging. Man, that goes so far, because now you are a non-threatening ear. Most people live in a threatening environment. Your job is to be non-threatening. So it invites curiosity rather than defensiveness. In all of my years of counseling and doing peak performance, and in relationships, not only my own, but also when I talk to other people, especially men and women. Men, as y'all been saying for years, women want to be heard. Your job is to create an environment where they are free and they feel safe to be vulnerable and express themselves without you jumping on them. Ladies, your man, especially if he is a melanated man, all he wants, I keep telling, it's hard for women to wrap their brain around. Every melanated man I know, he wants to be respected. Most women think love and respect is the same thing. It keeps a man from destroying or losing his ability to regulate his own cells, to keep his dorsal vagal nerve from collapsing. Ladies, what you can do, the number one thing that you can do for your man is to make him feel respect. And the best way to make a man feel respect is to listen when he offers advice. Men don't teach people we don't love. A man that doesn't invest into a woman or into children with his knowledge means he's pulled back because he has no emotional investment in you or the kids or the aunts or the uncle. Men, ladies, we don't offer advice to just anybody. We don't offer our ear. We don't sit down and listen to people. We too busy. Even if we ain't busy. Because when you reject a man's teachings, you are unknowingly rejecting the man. You make the man feel. That's why men cheat. Why do men cheat? They go talk to a woman that says, "Oh yeah," she finds what he's saying interesting, and you don't. So he gonna go over there. Because that's how we get our worth and our value. We get our worth and our value from what we do, based upon who we be. So when a woman, when you violate who we've chosen to be, and when you validate with your ear and with your attention and with your respect, and Mama says, yeah, that job you working at is stupid. Oh, you going to school for this or you doing that, you're wasting your time. So when you reject, because it's hard enough for us to try to find a place where we are respected. I'm talking about 100% authentic interest in who and how we are designed by God. That's respect. Respect is nothing like this church stuff where you got to submit and all this stuff. Ain't no man wants a woman who just following him around saying, yes, yes, yes. No man wants a yes woman. Every man that I know, we want a woman who has self-worth and self-value and self-esteem. She has her own stuff going on. She doesn't just following us around like a little puppy. Men love women who are self-autonomous. That means, ladies, that you take care of yourself. You are sexual, you are sensual, you are seductive, and spiritual, and sophisticated. That means you got your own thing going on. And you're not with us because you're needy. You're not with us because you need us. You're with us because you want. You choose us. No man wants a woman that don't have options and she is with him because she can't go nowhere else. I want a woman that she can leave anytime she wants. But every morning she wake up and say, I see you and I choose you. Okay. She got options. She don't take those options. That lets me know that, hey, she chooses me. When you understand how to navigate and overcome self-regulatory collapse by using sympathy and empathy, not judging people, just being considerate. That is it is so rare to find someone who is willing. The Bible just says just being willing to consider. That's why most people have a strong delusion. According to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 8, 9, and 10. God himself will send you a strong delusion. Why? Because you don't have the love of the truth. Love of truth. Truth means aletheia. Aletheia means consideration. If you don't love consideration, then guess what happens? You can't get help identifying your confirmation bias. See, if you ain't willing to consider that your pattern may be based upon selective thinking and selective hearing, if you're not willing to consider, just consider, just look at what your belief system is. Have you came across a religious person, Christian, Muslim, or whatever, Mormon, Seventh-day Adventist? They already made up their mind that, hey, Jehovah's Witness, that's where to go. Mormons for life, Quaker, all of those belief systems are based upon confirmation bias. You can point out patterns. You can provide proof and evidence. Nah, bruh. Praise Jesus. Praise Allah. Praise Joseph Smith. Whatever their belief system is. It's a belief system because their brain brings information that validates the belief. It works so you can choose to self-identify as a millionaire. If you choose to self-identify, and if you do it right, which we're going to be talking about tonight, how to do it, so that you can totally choose, I'm a millionaire. Then your brain will black out all non-millionaire stuff. It will only bring millionaires, and you will be a millionaire. But you got to self-identify as a millionaire. That simply means what? You got to take control and regulate or take responsibility. You got the responsibility inside of you. But most people resist. And whatever you resist persists. And so when we point out patterns and we encourage self-reflection and self-analyzation. Oh, come on, preacher. What beliefs am I holding on to that might be limiting my growth? Ask yourself that question. Everybody, 99.999% of the folk I know, they are protecting their own energy. They set up walls. They protecting their energy. They're protecting their belief system. They do not have a light they are. They do not have the love of the truth. They got the love of their current belief. Therefore, God has sent them a strong delusion. You can tell because they're delusional. Just ask them what they believe. Ask them this question. What beliefs are you holding to that might be limiting your growth? You know what they're going to say? They're going to quote a scripture. Why? They ain't got their own personal beliefs. You know how many niggas I know that can quote scriptures? I can quote scriptures better than most. And every morning I wake up, I examine every scripture that I quote. I examine the nature of my reality. I'm open to consideration. I ain't saying I'm changing anything, but if you got a better mousetrap, bruh, holler at your boy. Email, call, text, whatever, come to my house. Let's chop it up. Most people are not considerate. So you start with yourself, though. What beliefs am I holding on to that might be limiting my growth? Here's another question for you. How do you react when someone challenges your perspective? Do you listen or do you get offended? Do you get defensive? Ooh. Well, bless the Lord, my brother. Okay, one more question for you. What, this is a tough one, what fears underline your resistance to change? Why can't you experiment with viewing other opinions or the opposite opinion? Just discussing what's wrong with, well, how to say, a little leaven leavens the lump. I've heard that I don't know how many times. I mean, like nobody said that you got to believe. Nobody said that you got to entertain. Are we saying that in order for you to be able to regulate, you got to identify what in the world you're regulating? You got to identify your true core belief system. My life changed when I was able to do what I'm telling you to do. When I took a step back and I stopped reflecting, I stopped defending, I stopped getting angry, I stopped getting upset just because somebody asked me, hey, why do you do what you do? So then I started asking myself, oh, okay, why do I do what I do? And once I started asking myself, not depending on no reverend, no doctor, no bishop, no therapist, I just sit down and ask myself some basic questions about my belief systems. And I saw how I was not self-reflecting and not going through the process of self-analyzing. And I realized in my own eyes, I didn't need no therapist, no reverend, no doctor. Yeah, I was able to understand that. Am I regulating myself, or am I being regulated by someone else? Is this my belief, or was this belief given to me? And if it was given to me, is it valid? So the neuroscience of self-regulatory collapse, when you refuse to look behind the power of quantum identifying, how you have chosen to quantumly identify. Your confirmation bias plus the projection bias equals expectation violation. Once the expectation has been violated, then you and your feelings. Do you know that nobody can disrespect you unless you let them? I mean, it is mind-blowing to me that, when I think about how frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations oscillate and vibrate. Like, what beliefs am I holding on to that might be limiting my own growth? Wow. That question is crazy. How do I react when someone just asks me a basic question that challenges my belief system or my perspective? If I'm a Muslim and somebody say, why are you a Muslim? How do I, if I'm a Christian and somebody say, why are you a Christian? If you're a Buddhist and somebody say, and why are you a Buddhist instead of a Kabbalist? If you're a Kabbalist, why are you a Kabbalist instead of a Sufist? If you're in Sufism, why are you in Sufism instead of perennialism? If you're in perennialism, why are you into perennialism instead of Mormonism? If you're into Mormonism, why are you into Mormonism instead of Calvinism? If you're in Calvinism, why are you in Calvinism instead of Buddha? And we could keep going until Jesus come back and leave again. Could you imagine if you were able to navigate how to overcome the dorsal vagal nerve collapse and your self-regulatory collapse? What would happen is you would undergo a fundamental change in your entire worldview. Because instead of seeking solutions, everybody on earth seeks validations. We all do. I seek validation. I want my belief system validated. I want to be validated. I want to be heard. I want to be respected. When I wake up, every person, especially if you're black, because there's nowhere, especially if you're a black male, there's nowhere a black man can go and walk in and based upon his skin color, be validated, be accepted, be loved, and be respected because he's black. Not his education, not because he's a plumber, not because he's an architect, not because he's a preacher, not because of his title, not because of, but because he's black. And especially if he's blue black. If I'm talking about this, if he's really dark, and he walk in, if he was to stand up and start applauding, because in walked the darkest Negro we've ever seen in our life. Y'all ever see that happen anywhere? I ain't seen it. You seen it anywhere where a Negro is celebrated for the darkness of his skin? I ain't seen it. If you can see it, if you got a video or something, man, send it to me. MasterTeacher33.com at gmail.com. Email it to me, homie. I need to see that. So in the deep reservoirs of our brain, we don't want to experience no more toxic shame. We grew up in that. We're ashamed of our skin color. Not most of us, some of us. Not you, how about racial expressions of God and earth, some of them other folk. So instead of seeking solutions, we seek validation. What do we validate? That change is not necessary, Doc. So I'm going to engage in a mental shutdown. I'm going to shut down because I don't want my belief systems rejected. So I'm not going to I'm going to confirm. I'm going to comply because I don't want to confront. I ain't interested in no confrontation, my brother. So I'm just going to agree. Jesus is Lord. Yes, he is. Hallelujah. Buddha is God. Absolutely. Praise Buddha. No, it's not Buddha. It's not Jesus. It's Allah. Allah rock by, my brother. So, Negro, you just agree. He's just a chameleon. You just go along with everybody. Everybody's system, yes. So we're all God. Praise him. How come, though? Because your dorsal vagal nerve has collapsed. You're in a foreign state, homie. Not you personally. People, that's a little baby deer. Hear loud sounds, you just drop and you come compliant. The dominant culture knows that, Nico, you're going to comply. That's why they can do what they do. There's 8 billion people controlled by 10 people. How does 10 families control 8 billion people on the planet? Because they know self-regulatory collapse that's taking place. They know that no person resists change or refuses to accept the advice that's been given for the narrative that is being promoted by the dominant culture. Because if they do, they're going to get ostracized and singled out as a conspiracy theorist, as someone who's a rebel rouser, someone who got these weird beliefs, someone who's mentally unstable. Yeah, this dude believes in weather modification. He really thinks that the government is seeding the clouds. And the dude said that, man, that have you heard of Project Cumulus? And just people will make you out to be crazy. Truth now is crazy. If you oscillate and vibrate on the level where I am at, and a lot of other people, you will find yourself alone. Self-regulatory collapse is natural defense, rooted and grounded in the need and the desire to conform with the dominant culture and maintain and protect the ego and your emotional discomfort. But it's familiar. You are familiar with the government making promises and not keeping them. You're familiar with the Democrats doing cray-cray. And then you get angry and upset, so you vote Republican. Then Republicans get in office, they do cray-cray, and then you get mad at Republicans and you vote Democrat. And you just play political ping pong. Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. Same shitness. They both doing the same thing, but for some reason or another, we have a failure to identify. We don't want the truth, we want King James. Why? That protects the fragile ego. If you were to become a pattern recognition specialist and see the pattern, if you were to recognize the pattern, you would step towards meaningful transformation. You would change the current habit pattern. You would go against the narrative that's being promoted by the dominant culture. You would notice that you failed to notice. You would immediately implement a process of self-analyzation through this divine manifestation. And then you would shift timelines. So by shifting from confirmation to curiosity, from judgment to compassion, you would create fertile soil and a fertile brain where true growth could take place. You would literally change timelines to the divine. But you got to be ready to move beyond your ego protection. You got to open the door to authentic change. You got to remember this is about transformation, doctor, not information. You begin now to engage in the process of creating a cosmic shift to become the vibrational equivalent of God on earth. And you will shift from I am right to I'm willing to consider that the method to my modality may be a low vibration manipulation of the divine manifestation. I'm willing to consider the fact that maybe my worldview may not be source, the real source of all worldviews. I may have a faulty belief. There may be a chink in my armor, Doc. I'm willing to consider what you got. I'm open. I ain't saying I'm going to change, but I am willing to do what the Bible says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 8, 9, 10, and 11. I'm willing to consider that maybe I do have, or maybe I don't have the love of truth. But the Bible says God himself will send you a strong delusion if you do not have the love of the truth. So there's one specific type of love, and there's one specific type of truth, and it's called aletheia. And I know that because of my own ability or lack of ability to understand and overcome my ego protection that is based upon the self-regulatory collapse that has taken place because my dorsal vagal nerves has already collapsed. I've already exuded the 5 attributes and characteristics that we've discussed. I have them in my life. I'm doing it. The number one is I am a caretaker. I wake up every day and I believe it is my job to save everybody. Doc, you don't understand, my brother. I don't have time, brother. The world needs to be saved. And I'm a perfectionist. Everything has to be done this way. I'm on a mission. God has anointed me for such a time as this. Bump everybody else. It's all about me. When you over, under, and understand that I got played. How did you get played? By giving in to temptations. There's a variety of different reasons why I give into temptations. I can take something as simple as a diet. Because when you're attempting to control your food intake, at first it's easy to ignore the food that, you shouldn't be eating. But what happens when you are confronted with your favorite dessert? You haven't had that favorite dessert for a long time. All of a sudden, those cravings overpower your resolve. When those cravings overpower your resolve, because they are competing against your regulatory process. You got a process in place. You set it up. But your prefrontal cortex now has been challenged. And when that prefrontal cortex has been challenged by a more powerful reticular activating system, that confrontation is going to lead to what they call top-down prefrontal functioning. It becomes impaired. When your self-regulatory resources are depleted, successful self-regulation based upon neuroscience, it has a weakened impulse due to neglect of what is called situational factors that influence the balance inside of the subconscious regions of the prefrontal cortex. So this prefrontal cortex self-regulation failure is because you have failed to properly identify with a new self-image. Out of everything I've been saying for the last 30 years, what I've been telling you for the last 2 weeks, especially what we're going to be talking about tonight and what we've been talking about since we started Decode God Now, Download Wealth Now, all of the 21 hours and 21 books in this series. Again, separate as each series, each show is $99. Again, you can do the math. That comes out about a little over $2,000, or just make the one payment of $1,000 to get all 21 books and 21 audios. Basically, what is in there? If you do not shift how you self-identify. I talked about it inside my book, Homo Luminous, Ephesians 2:15. If you do not shift, the neuroscience is in, man. If you don't synchronize your brain waves, especially the alpha and the theta brain wave, if you don't align the electrical magnetic fields of your prefrontal cortex, of what's called the pedial cortex and the reptilian cortex, so head, heart, and gut coherence. If the vagus nerve, which is the main highway between your head, your heart, and your gut, it creates a vagal tone. That vagal tone means that the nervous system is sending out a frequency wave of vibration that regulates your emotional regulation. It regulates your resiliency. That's where willpower comes in. It even regulates your immune function. So you don't understand the neuroscience and the biology behind a quantum coherent state. Your electricity or your electrical magnetic field becomes what? Weakened. Instead of orderly and expansive, it becomes disorderly and it becomes disorganized. So all I'm simply saying is you are a walking, talking, breathing generator, operator, and director, as I've been saying for 30 years. You attract synchronicities. We call it luck. I broke down the 4 types of luck: blind luck, motion luck, awareness luck, and uniqueness luck. Based upon Dr. James Austin research, that this was done back in the 50s. James Austin came up and said most will live their entire life using blind luck. You just wake up every morning, you just flip a coin. It's like playing a lottery. What number are you going to play? I don't know, Doc. I'm just going to, use my birthday. I use the kid's birthday. You're just making it up. Then there's motion luck. Motion means that, okay, you got up and you move it in a specific motion. And based upon that motion, you making decisions because you're moving in that direction. I'm going in this direction anyway, so I'm going to take action, and it's going to create luck, what you call luck. But you are literally organizing, you're synchronizing your brain waves because of movement. Most people synchronize their brain wave because they just woke up. And the brain waves just go whatever because they set no intent. There's no movement. So number one is what most Negroes do. Number two is we get a little bit higher. You ain't woke, you're not aware. You just, man, I got to go to the store. So hopefully on the way to the store, I find some money on the ground. So you're kind of looking down. And so since you're going in a direction, you might find a penny or a dime. You just going to motion luck. But then there's high vibrational expressions of God on earth, like myself, like my boy, Brother Jibberday. Like we awareness. We got awareness, man. We got discernment. So, and we expect some experience to go out. So now we got awareness luck. So I'm aware that if I go to the hood at 2 a.m. at night, that I'm aware that there's a possibility that I'm gonna engage in some conflict. There's a good possibility if I'm going to the liquor store by myself in a very nice car in the hood. There's a good possibility based upon experience. So I can create my luck by not going to the hood at 2 a.m. in the morning by myself in a convertible Bentley, wearing a bunch of Jordans and name brand shoes and a big ass chain on my chest, and then I'm wondering why Negroes trying to rob me. I'm aware that if I'm a woman, I ain't gonna put on no Daisy Dukes with my cheeks hanging out and no tight shirt with my titties all out, and then I'm gonna go jogging through Central Park at night, at midnight by myself. And I'm gonna have headphones on so I can't hear nothing. And I'm wondering why some fool jump out and says, "Boo, give me the cookie." Or I'm gonna take the cookie. So awareness creates my luck. I'm able to create situational ethics, for lack of a better term, based upon my awareness. Then there's one out of every million non-Negroes, on this planet that have design luck. Where you actually sit down with a Negro like me and get your mother beep, 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 Dickney report and look. If you don't even know, maybe just Google it yourself. I ain't talking about no personality report. I'm talking about go in and find out and do some research on alphanumeric and biblical alphanumerics and understand that numbers are not numbers. Letters are not letters, but they are literally Bible codes. They are literally pieces and attributes. They're called emanations. It's little pieces of God placed inside of dirt. God put himself inside of you. God's operating as you, and God's manifesting him, her, itself through you. You just got to get out of the way. There's a very few, 1 out of every 10,000, that's understanding that, you know what? I'm designed to be lucky. I'm designed for abundance. Abundance is my birthright. Nigga, this ain't no accident. This ain't luck. This is a program. I'm programmed for wealth. I'm programmed for health. I'm programmed for wisdom. I'm programmed for great relations. I'm not programmed to go along with the dominant culture. I'm above the dominant culture. I'm not programmed to oscillate and vibrate in a limited belief system. I'm not programmed to work with my back. I'm programmed to correct with my brain. I'm programmed to occupy my lane with my God-given brain. So uniqueness. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So based upon my uniqueness, I'm an expert based upon my design. So I am Master Teacher 33. Based upon what? Did I just make up that title? Did I just pull that out of thin air, Dr. Span? Did I just read that and is this some kind of clever marketing campaign? Am I trying to con and manipulate folks? Did I just make this up, Brother Jibberday? Nah, bruh. This is my my biological, this is my cosmological, theological, biological design. I didn't choose my birth date. I didn't choose my date of entry. I didn't choose my name. I didn't choose my ley lines that I was born. This is God. God knew me in my mother's womb. He's predestined me for such a time as this. I could have been born in the 1700s. But I wasn't. Why? Because I got a purpose. I got a destiny. I got to be a canoe. So no, bruh, this ain't luck. This is destiny. Negroes like me over and understand, and y'all good high vibration expressions of God on earth, we over and understand one simple fact. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. What does that mean? That means that I have a higher connectivity with source. That means that I have access, my brother. I got access, my sister, so do you. You got access to the throne. You got access to a higher order of function. You got creativity. You got intuition. You got problem-solving ability. You got an expanded consciousness, an expanded way. No, you ain't walking around with no blind luck. You ain't walking around hoping and wishing that the government come out and bail you out. You got a plan. You got a plan. This is not no magic. This is not luck. This is divine principles, processes, and procedures that's based upon what we call purpose. So this is how we master our nervous system and we reconstruct our life based upon our God-given design, because we are programmed to shine. We create heart, brain, gut coherence, not by doing no Wim Hof breathing technique, cold showers, and earthing. Although that is all awesome, don't get it twisted. We make sure that we do what the Helios Biblios says. And let's close with this. The neuroscience. I broke this down inside of my book on prosuhe. The Bible specifically tells us that we're supposed to pray without ceasing. For me, that simply means that everybody, you are supposed to walk in a feeling. You're supposed to cultivate a conscious awareness of God's presence in your life. 24/7, 365. Everywhere you go, you see God. You can go to a homeless shelter, God is there. You can go to the White House. You didn't even vote for Trump. You don't even like him. You still can go to the White House and see God is there. You can go to a homeless shelter with a bunch of drunks and winos. God is there. Everywhere you go, because you are a container of the divine essence. So everywhere you go, you don't go to church to find God. You are the church. If you go to church, you go to church because you are conscious that you regularly communicate. You got a personal, private, productive relationship with Source. You don't go to church to pray. You don't go to church to be with God. You know God is not a building. You know that your body is the temple of the Ruach and the Pneuma. You know greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. You know no weapon formed against you can prosper. You know you have the power to trample on snakes and scorpions and all power. I mean, you know God wishes to do exceedingly abundantly above anything that you can ask or think. You know this. So no, you're not walking around hoping and wishing. Your brain is in a state where your desires are fulfilled. Whether they exist in the 3D realm or not, they exist in the spiritual realm. You're just waiting for them to drop down. So in order for them to drop down immediately, you got to do what we're going to talk about tonight. You got to shift your identity to the vibrational equivalent of God. Tonight's message is going to be very important. This was just the intro, because we get to go deeper down the rabbit trail of the science behind identity shifting. Not just identity shifting to where I am right now. Master 33, that's great. But I need to be both. What do you mean both? I need to understand that I'm wave that's chosen to drop down as MT33. Now MT MT360. So above MT360 is unlimited source, always vibration, unlimited possibilities. So we need to make that shift to a state of awareness of unlimited possibilities. So that way, when you come up against quote unquote limited options and limited possibilities that we call problems, you got to be able to tap into unlimited possibilities. So you got to already be there. You got to already self-identify with unlimited possibilities. So we got to include. We got to live in two places at the same time. We got to do exactly what Yahushua the HaMashiach did. I'm in this world, yes I am, but I'm not of this world. So I'm spirit. Now I have possession of soul, and I live in body, but let's not forget I'm spirit. So tonight we got to break down how do we pay a light bill with that level of awareness. See, it's one thing to have information, but how does that information lead to transformation? How does actually transmute to application? It's like having AI. Having all this AI stuff and using AI, that's awesome. But how to use AI to combine 12 different apps into one app, so that way you created a streamless flow that has all of these micro or macro, no, it's micro that creates macro. Smaller systems that create one bigger system. That is what we call responsibility. The ability to respond to what the enemy, for lack of a better term, has designed by keeping you from your shine, by giving you a defense mechanism, a coping mechanism, so that way you can dismiss solutions without considerations, so that way you can seek validation based upon your confirmation, so that way you don't have to engage in self-reflection. Because if you sit down and examine yourself, you will realize that you're not the vibrational equivalent of God on earth. Sure, you've done a lot of things right, but, bruh, there's a lot of room for growth, homie. There's a lot of room for growth. We can all expand our borders. We can all manage our expectations. And we can all keep our mind full of God's favor. When you explore self-regulatory collapse, you will see that, you know what? I have not been focusing on all of the blessings. My mind has not been full of His divine favor. If you are mindful, it creates transformation. You are you reverend, you doctors, you bishops. If you maintain an attitude of gratitude, that feeling creates a field. That field creates what is real. I didn't read that in the book. We break it down tonight. Make sure you join us. Costs us 99 bones for the book and to join the audio, or you just listen to the audio and no charge. Man, I love you, and nothing you can do about it. We'll see you guys later on tonight. God bless.